This is Healthcare Marketing RX, where we try to help decision makers, practice owners, practice managers, whichever one or both, make good decisions about marketing. Whether you're already doing some marketing and you want to make it better, you feel you need to, or you're thinking about starting up marketing or a section of marketing for the first time, our goal here is to help you understand what good looks like so that if you want to do it in-house with some staff, or you're looking maybe to outsource to a third-party tool or a third-party agency, our goal is to help you understand what good looks like so that you can choose well. These videos, and this video in particular, are not how-to videos. There's an ocean of good information out there, whether it's on YouTube, free courses, paid courses, whatever. We at Market Advisory Group do not believe that we can add any real value to all of that how-to information. However, what we don't see too much of is what we're focusing on, which is helping the owner or the decision maker make good decisions about marketing for their practice. And today, we're going to focus on getting more reviews from your happy patients online. And let's get into it and start with something that's fairly obvious, but it's always worth going through quickly, is that reviews have power. What you see here is a snapshot of something called the Google Map Pack, sometimes known as the 3-pack or the Snack Pack rather, whatever. There are 3 listings way at the top of the page of search, page 1 of a search result in Google. And just want you, the viewer of this, to imagine that you are in the market for a new orthodontist, which is what you see on this screen. And if you had to decide based on this search result who you were going to call first to find out more information, who would you call? You see 3. You've got Earhart Orthodontics here at the top, Kowalczyk Orthodontics here in the middle, and then Marcia Engelman down here at the bottom. And if you did this search, you would already know that they're all very close to you because you know where you are in this map, and they're all very close by. And if you had to decide who you were going to call first to find out more information, I can tell you, I use this slide in a lot of in-person presentations. I've shown this a number of times, and inevitably, Marcia Engelman gets, when I ask people in the room, raise your hands, who would you call first? Marcia Engelman gets the most votes. It does not mean that all of those people will end up choosing Marcia Engelman, but she's going to get more of the first phone calls. And why? It's just because of these reviews. She has the most reviews here that you see, 9 more than Kowalczyk, 15 more than Earhart. And it's interesting, isn't it? Just 9 reviews separate. Easily, every time I do this, Marcia Engelman gets most of the hand raises. So most of those first phone calls for 9 more reviews from strangers, right? That's the power of it. Here's what's really unfortunate about it for Earhart and Kowalczyk. What if I told you that all 3 of these are really qualified in what they do? They each have at least 10 years of experience. On top of that, they're all board certified. They all live close to you. They all have hours that fit your schedule. They all take your insurance. They're all taking new patients. They're all really well qualified. But when people go online and they want to form a first impression, which is what everybody wants to do, this is what they see first. I know all of that about Earhart, Kowalczyk, and Engelman because I looked them up. But on a first impression, when people are doing a first screen, a first search, they don't do that level of research. They're going to click on Marcia Engelman and learn that stuff about her and be very impressed by her because of everything I just told you. But if they had clicked on Kowalczyk and Earhart, they would have seen the same thing. But unfortunately, Earhart and Kowalczyk aren't going to get as many of those of those first clicks because of the reviews. The reviews are a tiebreaker when everything else is the same. So for you who is watching this, if you relate more to Marcia Engelman, my advice to you, if nothing else, is keep your lead. You've got the lead on this, and you're getting more phone calls as a result. All else being equal, of course, that's not always the case, but all else being equal, keep your lead. If you relate more to Earhart and Kowalczyk, however, you've got a little work to do. Try to catch up. This isn't an arms race. It doesn't mean they have to have like hundreds or thousands of them. You have to have a respectable number, and there's no hard data on what a respectable number is. But what a crime if you are one of these 2. So if you relate to Earhart or Kowalczyk, catch up. If you relate to Marcia Engelman, keep your lead. So with that as a backdrop, what I want to take you through now is what are the best practices? So what are the best practices for getting more reviews, showing them getting the power out of those reviews for you as a decision maker in your practice? First one, sounds obvious when you read it, ask for the review. I can't tell you, though, how often I come across a practice that's a new client that has the following profile. They've been in practice for 20 years, maybe longer, maybe a little less, but they're clearly good at what they do because they've been in practice for a long time. Their patients love them. Their patients refer them. All of those things are true. But when you go online and check them out, you see maybe one or two reviews. Sometimes one of them is not so great. And the review profile online, that first impression, is not good. And it's such a mismatch, right? Somebody who's been in practice for 10, 15, 20 years must have a really good reputation. They must have lots of happy patients. But you just saw it, right? You saw that 3-pack. If you don't have reviews to back it up, then the power of your reputation is not being fully realized. And why is that? It's because nobody's asking for reviews. People who are unhappy will leave a review on their own. People who are happy have to be asked. And you've got to ask them. Ask as many patients as you can. And make sure also that you're asking each patient more than once for a review. So what do I mean by that? So if I was a patient of yours and you said, hey, Carl, would you please leave us a review? I'd say, sure. How do I do it? And you explain to me how to do it. And then I leave. I leave your practice. And more often than not, I have good intentions, but life takes over and I forget about it. If you can send me reminders, one reminder, maybe a second reminder, you've got a better chance that I'll go, oh yeah, I said I would leave that review, and I'll end up leaving that review. So on the one hand, you can ask me 2 or 3 times when you ask me once to leave a review. The other part of it is, if I'm a returning patient, let's say you're a dental practice and I come back every year for, or twice a year for a cleaning and an exam, you can ask me every time. It is perfectly believable that the same patient can continue to have a good experience with you and can be asked more than once over the life of time that they're a patient with you to leave a review. The review is very simple. I've been a patient for 5 years and they keep doing a really good job at what they do, et cetera, et cetera. You can keep asking the same patient for a review. I get that question every once in a while. That's why I say it. So practice number 1, ask for the review. Practice number 2, this one's not so obvious. Make it super easy for me, in this example, your patient, to leave you a review. The fewest steps possible from when you ask, hey, will you leave us a review, to when it gets done, the better. We have a client who, when we met them, they said to us, we used to try to teach our patients to Yelp. That's their words, to Yelp. And not surprisingly, they got very few reviews out of it. Not that Yelp is particularly difficult, but it takes some time. It takes some patience. It's not the most obvious thing in the world, but none of them terribly are. And, to ask somebody to learn a new process for you, even the most well-intentioned person is probably going to start trying and then give up because they get a little frustrated and they have a busy life. So make it super, super easy. If you're going to do this on your own and you're going to build a process in the practice, which is perfectly acceptable, have somebody else test it and watch what they do. Did they get confused? Did they know where to go? And any pause in what they're doing is too much of a pause. It's got to be beyond super duper easy, because any sort of pause or step or confusion, some people are going to go, and they're going to give up, and they're going to feel bad about it for a minute if they're really nice people, but that's not going to change their mind. They're going to give up and they're going to move on with their life, and that review possibility is going to get lost. So practice number 2, make it super easy. Number 3, if you can, after I've left you a review in this example, try to put my review in at least 2 locations. The first one is on what we call third-party sites, not your website, Google, Facebook, Yelp, etc. And this is good for people who are searching for your services but don't know you by name, weren't referred to you by name, and they're out there searching. Think of that 3-pack of the orthodontists that we looked at the beginning. So this is a client of ours, North Shore Associates of Gynecology and Obstetrics here in the North Shore of Chicago. And Kelly Griffin, as you can see, left a review and she put it on Google. The service that our client uses then automatically the next day takes a piece of that website of that review and puts it on their website, so that if somebody finds you by name, is referred to you by name, and goes to the website, they can see the reviews there as well. So there's a lot of good things that are going on here. 1, you get 1 review in 2 locations. So now you're covered in 2 different places where people look for you, common places where people look for what you do, either Google or your website. Secondly, it was super easy for Kelly Kelly Griffin left her review in one place, and now her review is helping the practice in both places. I can tell you the system is very easy for Kelly to use. It's very easy for the practice to do the asking. Everything kind of fits into place. And as long as the practice, as this client, keeps asking for reviews on a regular basis, this is what they can expect to get. So this is about coverage, right? Because you never quite know where people are going to find you. If you're a busy practice, they can find you in a number of different places. And you want to have your reviews in as many of those locations as you can. Next up, make the review easy to scan. So the word scan here in the title is very deliberate. Nobody reads anymore. Nobody has any attention span anymore. And they want to be able to scan it so they can get an idea of what's going on. So what do people want to see when they scan? It's got a name. It's not anonymous. People don't like anonymous reviews. They're never quite sure. Is that a real review? Did the practice just put that up? Is it fake? A name lends some credibility that it's a real person. It's got to have a date and better yet, a recent review. People like new reviews better than old reviews, people being the reader of those reviews. There's a bunch of research out there that suggests that once a review gets to be about 3 months old, the reader of the review starts to discount it a little bit. And then the older that it gets, the more discounting that goes on. And I think this is because of the following. If you read a bunch of reviews that were from the past month about a practice, you'd say, wow, I'm going to get that same experience. Look at what all these people are saying. But if those same reviews were from a year ago and there was nothing in between, you go, well, that was a year ago. Is it still true today? Is that what I would get today? All this is going on kind of, underneath the surface. Nobody's really having this conversation with themselves the way I just described it. But it is believable to us and to me that the older a review is, the less, the little bit of a less credibility it's got. So keep asking for new reviews. It's got to have a date. You want to have star. You want to have some sort of visual marker that says this is a positive or negative review. We personally like the 5-star scale just because it's used everywhere. Everybody knows what it means. There's no guesswork. 1 is always bad. 5 is always good. Nobody ever deviates from that. So it's just making it easy to scan. And then if they want to read the review itself, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to. That quick stars. If you looked at this, probably when you looked at this, when I came to this slide and you saw it, you already understood this is a positive review. That's all you really need to know. And if you want to spend more time on it as the reader, you can, but you don't have to because it's easy to scan. So by comparison, some reviews aren't easy to scan. I plucked this off of a random website. It's anonymized. This is, if you choose to read it afterwards, this is a life-changing story of this person who came into this particular practice. It's a nutritionist with a whole host of issues, and the nutritionist over time has made a life-improving change in this person's life. It is really, really inspiring. It is also very long and hard to read. And I hate to be the one to say it, but very few people are going to take the time to read this. I wonder if you took the time to read this, or at least what your first reaction is when you saw it. You saw 2 paragraphs, lots of lines of text, small font. Some people will read them, but it's hard to scan. It's really not scannable. Even if this review had like 5 stars above it, maybe right above the name, where they could go, wow, positive review. Let me spend more time in scanning it. Even that would be an improvement. But, just to show you a comparison of what easy to scan is and hard to scan is. And it's too bad. It's too bad because this life-changing story is not having the impact that the owner of this practice, I assume, hopes that it will, because I truly believe very few people are taking the time to read it, let alone scan it. So, one of the benefits of reviews, this is something that I talk about with our clients, is that you really ought to read your reviews. And for 2 things. One is, and we're not going to go through these reviews, is you want to know what people like about what you're doing, not just that you're nice people, which is important, but if there's things that are going on in the practice really well, the front desk is super responsive. That's a good thing, for example. I want to point your attention to this review over here. This is a 1-star review. These are not clients, by the way, and their overall star review rating is very strong, 4.2. But my point is that there's really good information in here about somebody who has some concerns that could be addressed by the practice. So they talk about there is a problem with billing at this practice, and just some things that can really annoy patients But it's really, really good information, and that you should take all this information. Our opinion is, very seriously, accentuate the good and try to fix the things that patients are talking about. Even if it's one patient, this is worth the practice manager or the owner saying, hey, what's going on with this? Maybe the front desk had a bad day. Maybe it was a new person. Maybe there's a perfectly logical explanation, or maybe there's something going on underneath the surface that you need to know about. And this kind of patient feedback can be really, really valuable for you. So this isn't about necessarily, how do you get more patient reviews? This is just, reminding you or urging you to take this content seriously, because there's really some good, valuable gold in there. So if you're going to do reviews at all, our thing is make it a system. We, generally speaking, at Market Advisory Group, we approach marketing systematically. And what does that mean? That just means lay out the steps, make sure everybody understands what their part of it is, make sure that the process is smooth, and then run it religiously, because that's what it takes. And it doesn't have to be very difficult, but that's what it takes to get it good and get it sustainable so that you get what you want, which in this case is more reviews. And so a system for getting more reviews answers yes to these questions. Have we figured out how to make asking a regular part of the practice? Here's an example. We had a client, a podiatry practice, very busy front desk, and they wanted the front desk to be asking for reviews. And after working with them, it became clear that the best way to do it was every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon at around 4 o'clock. The front desk would take a look at the list of patients that they had seen over the past couple of days, talk with the doctors. Are these people ready to be asked for review or not? And then the front desk would enter them into the review system that they were using from us, and then the system would take over and do the asking. That works just fine. There are a lot of ways to get it done, but you got to figure out, is it going to be a regular part of the practice? The more often, the better. Every day is great. Ideally, asking a patient in person is not always it wasn't possible for that podiatry practice because the people at the front desk are often on the phone, right? So patients are coming and going. You can't ask a patient for a review if you're on the phone. So this is what we backed into, and it worked out pretty well. Are we able to publish reviews on third-party sites like Google and Facebook, and also on our website? There's different ways to get that done, but we highly recommend that you figure that one out. Are we reading the reviews to see what patients like and don't like about us? We covered that. Have we assigned a single person in the practice to lead this system for the practice? What do I mean by that? So if it's somebody, let's say at your front desk, who is the point person to make sure that the system, the reviews management system, is getting done, then you need one person. It could be the practice manager. It could be a front desk person. It could be one of the doctors. It doesn't really matter. One of the nurses. It doesn't really matter. But this is the person who everybody can look to if they have any questions. And that person at the same time can say, hey, John, you over there, you're supposed to be asking patients for reviews. How's it going? Are you doing that? And then following on from that is, do we support that person to get the job done? So if John then starts complaining that they don't like that question, or that, there's a problem or whatever, that person, we'll say Anne, just to make up a name, that Anne doesn't get any backlash, or Anne isn't left on an island because she's been given this reviews management responsibility without the support to get it done. So the other part of this is you do need a single person. I have been with clients where they make it everybody's job. Everybody's job is to ask for reviews. And what happens in that case is that when something is everybody's job, it's nobody's job. And everybody starts looking at everybody else saying, oh, they'll get it done. They'll get it done. I don't have to do it. It falls through the cracks and it never gets off the ground. I promise you. Have a single person. This is not the person who does all the work necessarily, but is a person that is the point person so that they can manage the system to make sure that it works well. Periodically, do we review how well our system works and fix what doesn't? This is something we do with our clients, with all the marketing that we do. We're always tweaking and tinkering and tailoring to try to make it better. Just because a system is built doesn't mean that you etch it in stone and it's never to be changed again. No, things can get better over time, and that's what you should be doing with this system too. And then finally, is the system HIPAA compliant? And so what does this mean? If you're going to use any kind of electronic system, you're probably going to be sending out emails to ask for reviews, or maybe text messages to ask for reviews. That's the system that we offer clients. And an email address and a cell phone number, especially when paired with a patient name, counts as protected health information under HIPAA. And now all of a sudden you're sharing PHI with a third-party tool. an outside marketing agency, or even if it's all done in-house, you need to make sure that the people who are seeing that information are covered under your HIPAA policies and procedures, that they can see that information along with any software tool. Even if you store it in Excel, right? You should have Microsoft does have a business associate agreement that you can sign, and that'll help you kind of help bring you into the HIPAA compliant world. But if you have any questions about that, we do have a companion Healthcare Marketing RX video specifically around making sure that your reviews management system is HIPAA compliant, because it's not always so obvious. It doesn't have to be a difficult thing, but there are definitely some boxes in the HIPAA compliant side of things that you want to make sure you have checked. So thank you for watching this. Our library of Healthcare Marketing RX videos is growing. Come back to our website, markadvisorygroup.com, to find out more. You can also find us on our YouTube channel.